Kaiser is the designated home team for this matchup. They will go to the basket to our right, with Garfield going the other way. We saw Iolani hang with the mainland team. We saw Kamehameha give Long Island a run for their money last night. Can a team like Kaiser be one of those local schools that makes an impact here in day number 2? We find out as we are underway here at the Iolani Classic. Kaiser starting out in a man. Munson at the baseline. No good as he is challenged. But another opportunity. This is Gardner, and he hits the 3 early.
Sometimes what you'll see with this these day 2 games and day 2 teams is that they get that extra day to acclimate to the weather, to get used to the time, and they get another day of practice. So you might see them do a little bit better than the teams did yesterday.
Drummer called for a travel as he lost his balance. We saw and I'm watching this team and I'm thinking back to the Iolani game yesterday where we saw confident ball handling from the guards with Iolani that kept him in. And for Kaiser, you hope to see some of that for them, but also being able to control the basketball in order to keep them in.
They're going to have to do a little bit of everything right here. You know, keep Garfield off the boards, keep them away from the basket.
Eason fades.
And making shots, so tall order still, but you know, we saw it last night. These teams have a chance.
Nice hesitation, but swatted out by Munson on that shot attempt from Kenji Toyama. It will stay with Kaiser. I don't believe the shot clock should be at 4 though, as Kaiser was in transition. And the ball's turned over anyway. On the run, Stewart. And a 5-0 start for the Bulldogs. Drummer nearly lost control. Gotta like this matchup with Drummer and Munson. Munson bringing the size at 6'8", but Drummer a good ball handler. But the shot clock is winding down and it is ripped away by Tari Eason. And he'll finish emphatically.
Kaiser really struggling out here on the perimeter. Not too much action as far as screening or trying to get guys open. Their offense is predicated on a lot of drives. So you see this dribble drive action, but when you're dribble driving against guys of this size, it makes it a lot more difficult.
Dylan Hickox stopped right at the low block, hesitated, got his man up in the air, and draws the first foul going against Jalen Stewart.
Talked about the adjustment with Garfield as far as flying all the way here to Hawaii, getting used to the weather, though it is drizzling, so this might be something familiar for the Seattle team. But getting used to the time and getting used to the baskets and, you know, all those types of things. The adjustment that Kaiser is going to have to make while they're here in Hawaii is playing against this type of size, this type of length. These teams are a lot more athletic than the teams you see here. And you saw an early block and you saw Kaiser struggling to get to the hole when they may have normally been able to do that against Hawaii competition. So that's their adjustment.
This is Corin Johnson, the sophomore guard. Guidry will lob it to the high block. Munson with the touch. That's off the mark from Gardner, but the putback, no good. Third chance there from Guidry. 9-0 run to start and a dangerous pass. That's going to go back to Garfield. Was a little bit of a drizzle outside, nothing like 40-degree weather in the Pacific Northwest. I just came back from there about a week and a half ago. Cold.
We do see these teams and we talk to them and we say, you know, we almost need to apologize for the weather because we want them to have such a great experience when they come here. So we'll say, hey, you know what, I'm sorry that it's raining.
Johnson's miss.
But their response is always, but it's Hawaii rain. A lot warmer, a lot sunnier, still beautiful.
The foul in the perimeter. That's going to be the second on Jalen Stewart. It's a comfortable kind of mist because it rains, but it's not the kind of humid rain where it rains and all of a sudden it's hotter. We were out earlier today and it was nice and cool. Sun wasn't bearing down on everybody earlier today in Waikiki, so comfortable conditions.
Yeah, they get to see that for sure. I mean, you get the rain and you got the sun. That makes rainbows. So great Hawaii
foul.
moments, you know, great Hawaii moments for these guys, and I'm sure the cameras will be out taking a lot of those photos from their hotel room.
Jermaine Guidry called for the foul. And back to the line will be Kenji Toyama.
Kaiser getting a little more comfortable with the size and length. They're finding ways to go by, drawing some fouls, earning easy shots, uncontested from the free throw line.
Both made for Toyama, and the Cougars are on the board. Now how to stop the all-around talent that Garfield brings from 1 through 5. Johnson tries to take his man off the dribble. Stewart poked out of his hands and taken away. Falls. That's partially touched by Corin Johnson. Kaiser seals the baseline, and that ball not handled by Johnson. Falls has another steal. Uses his body to shield off Stewart and scores at the goal.
Great finish there by Fall. As you said, uses his body, reaches out, stretches that right hand out of the reach of the Garfield defender for a 2.
And that's Stewart playing with 2 fouls, who wasn't playing like he had 2 fouls, trying to challenge that. But 4 in a row for Kaiser here in the last minute. And that drive, good for Guidry.
Kaiser went big here with Noah Honolulu and Cyrus Singleman in the lineup. So what you saw Garfield do was go 5 out. They stretched them out, used their quickness, used their speed, and were able to get to the rim.
Honolulu off the mark with the loose ball to Kaiser. Drummer will launch. Munson comes up with a rebound and numbers up ahead with Guidry beating everybody down the floor. This is a great start for Tremaine Guidry. Honolulu trying to go no look to Drummer. It's knocked out by Corin Johnson. You mentioned Nalu Honolulu, new to the program, was part of the St. Francis program. And of course, St. Francis was here at the Iolani Classic. The school gone, so a lot of their players transferred to different programs. Nice hesitation, and Honolulu will finish at the rim. And he was one of those, one of the unsung guys up front that wasn't really talked about for that St. Francis team that made some tournament runs, and last year in the ILH Division I run coming up short, but he gave teams like yours fits sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, you're so worried about the Ng brothers, Cameron and Cordell Ng, that you have a guy like Honolulu on the inside that sometimes you forget. You're expending a lot of resources, and he was the guy catching the dump-offs, catching the finishes, grabbing offensive boards, getting putbacks, and you could see it on that last play with his agility. He was able to get from the perimeter to the rim, cleared it out, and finish it clean. So, yeah, he was a problem.
Another former St. Francis player, Cordell Ng, played last night for Kamehameha. That ball lost, nearly out of bounds, but Dorian Tibbs tracks it down. It's a 7-point game, nearing 2.5 to play in the opening 8. Johnson to the rim. That's challenged late by Drummer. Kaiser certainly has settled down after the first few minutes. Toyama takes what they give him, and he banks it in. They gave him the left side, he took it.
Toyama is such a crafty guard, very unassuming at 5'6", but he and Drummer make a great duo there in the Kaiser backcourt.
Cougars are on an 8-4 run here in the last about 3 minutes or so. That shot no good from Johnson. And there's Toyama high up there to get the rebound. Drummer, the teardrop. And Kaiser's made a move here late in the first.
Yeah, those early block shots on those shot attempts on the inside have now become floaters that are dropping through the net.
Basket good for Poppy Justice, and he's fouled from behind by Honolulu. Honolulu trying to make a play as the help defender, and he got a little too much of the back of Justice. That will stop a little bit of the Kaiser run. Poppy Justice, a two-sport standout. Eric Garfield also plays football. That shot well short. And Toyama has the rebound for the final 90 seconds. Dane Sue in the game for the first time for Kaiser. Also in, Gio Flowers touching it for the first time. Back to Flowers, who is stuffed from behind by Corin Johnson. You can see some of the early jitters coming in right out of the gate. Honolulu missed it long. And pushing ahead, here's Tibbs. Nice dish from behind, but a nice block by Gio Flowers. And Flowers runs the floor. He's fouled from the side.
You love that kind of effort, being able to recover off a hustle play, get the block, then sprint down the floor, be the first one down, get the catch, draw the foul. Great effort there by Flowers.
Flowers bringing some size at 6'10". He hits the first free throw. As Cyrus Singleman will check back in. Honolulu will get a breather. Both good. 50.8 to go in the opening quarter. Tibbs is open. Offensive board, Gardner fighting for it, and they get it back out. A nice floater there from Corin Johnson off the left side of the lane. 2-second difference between game and shot clock. Drummer, that's deep. Well short. Possibly one chance here for the Bulldogs if they want to play for it. Quick movement to Tibbs. Tibbs not given the baseline. That tipped out. 3 at the buzzer. Justice misses. They actually do get a chance after that with Gardner. I thought they wouldn't have an opportunity. Gardner misses, but 1 quarter in the books. It's a 17-12 Garfield lead after 1. You're in day number 2 of the 2019 Iolani Classic. (17-12) after the first quarter, as the Garfield Bulldogs started out hot. Kaiser's kind of trimmed it a little bit after 1. What's your takeaway, Coach?
Most of Garfield's opportunities and their best ones have come in the paint. They are able to get deep paint touches and finish at the rim or short jumpers, and those are most of their buckets. They haven't had too much success from long range, so Kaiser may want to sit back a little bit, keep their guys in front, and force those long shots. Of course, that's easier said than done against this type of athleticism, but I think that's what they're going to want to try and force is longer shots and closer ones for these athletic, tall Garfield Bulldogs.
And a turnover right at the outset of the quarters. That ball was low and right outside of Dane Sue's reach. Gardner from the baseline. And the rebound just kind of falls in the lap of a Kaiser player, but it's taken right away by Kendall Munson. And Munson goes right to the rim. You were talking about during the break, Munson was sitting for a little while, but immediately active off the missed shot and the score.
Yeah, that Kaiser run seemed to coincide with Munson being on the bench. I thought he had had fouls, or maybe Coach Roy has just given him a rest, but he makes an instant difference as soon as he comes in.
Pressure defense here on the perimeter. This man look from Garfield. Toyama hesitation, tough take with the left hand, it's no good. Bucket put back by Singleman is in, and he's fouled.
Great to see Singleman there battling on the inside, fighting for post position, then fighting for rebounding position. Toyama's so crafty going to the hole, that start, that stop, that little look up, hesitation, fake, and gets that shot off nearly to go in, but Cyrus Singleman working hard for the and one.
Singleman also plays football and volleyball. 3-sport standout. Free throw good. That's a Kaiser team that's on the rise. Went to the state tournament last year, lost to Seabury Hall. Moving into Division I this year. Munson tries to go around the rim. Singleman stayed right with them though. And the Cougars will try to continue to cut the gap. Drummer, tough take, but not close. Justice can't hit there. Dre Falls has the rebound. He looks to beat everybody down the floor on the dribble. Almost stripped from behind. Falls keeps it but throws it away. But a turnover on the other end.
Yeah, not the prettiest basketball on either end. You see a lot of speed, guys getting up and down, but maybe a little too fast there. A couple of turnovers, errant passes.
It's almost as with Falls on the other end. You saw the speed, but that he didn't know how to throttle it back as he got toward the rim.
It looked as though his teammates might have been a little confused there, because if they had trailed or they had hit the deep corner, he might have had a kick opportunity to find someone for an easy three.
Nalu Honolulu back in. Behind the back pass, but Tibbs read it. And Munson, Drummer tries to rip it out. He can't, but he'll be whistled for the personal. Kendall Munson committed back in October to go to Pepperdine. He's going to play if you want the Washington tie with Pepperdine. The coach at Pepperdine is Lorenzo Romar.
Former University of Washington coach.
That's right.
Correct.
First free throw, no good. And that's actually, since Romar has been at Pepperdine, the first recruit from Washington that he's been able to get into that program since taking that job with the Waves. That no good. And Falls will come up with it.
Yeah, really nothing outside of about 8 to 10 feet here for Garfield, including the free throws.
Drummer off the bounce. Clanks off the left side. And racing in is Corin Johnson. Nice underhand, the lay-in good for Guidry. Toyama looking for a screen. Goes away from it a second time. Plays off contact, won't hit. And up ahead, Tibbs with speed. Right around, falls and scores.
You see how quickly Garfield gets out in transition. Those last two, it was a rebound. They're looking up. Their lanes are filled. And they're finding the open guy for easy shots.
Leads ballooned back to 8. Honolulu, that pass is read and taken away. Guidry underhands to Munson. And Kaiser's going to call for time as all of a sudden the turnovers is picked up and Garfield's transition game's on point.
Munson got in the game to start the quarter, and it was a much closer game than it is now, but what you saw was 3 runouts. And in different scenarios, this last one here was a turnover, live ball turnover. They were able to turn that right into points, and then a long outlet prior to that and a short outlet. So they've gotten it every which way, quickly into transition, quickly into their lanes. Very few dribbles, really efficient, getting to the rim and finishing.
Got a lot of good action over the course of the day today. Who are you looking forward to seeing as we go along here in day number 2 of the Classic? We've got the 5 o'clock game a little bit later on. We'll see Moanalua taking on Archbishop Wood. Mid-Pacific at Oak Hill at 6:30. Damien and Jefferson coming up at 8. Anything or anybody or any team you're particularly interested in over the course of the day?
Anytime you hear Oak Hill's coming to the Iolani Classic, you want to see Oak Hill. They're loaded every year. Coach Steve Smith does an incredible job with that program. Guys coming in and out. Last year, the star of that program was Cole Anthony, who's now just starring at North Carolina. I mean, you see guys like that come in and out of that program every year. So they'll have a new set of guys this year, Cam Thomas among them. So I really want to see what he's got. But, you know, Archbishop Wood, Jefferson, these teams that we don't get to see too often here on the island, are the teams that I want to see, and just to see what their level is and where they're at.
It's funny you mentioned the Oak Hill factor. I was talking to Rich Cho, who's the matchmaker at Bellator, and he was asked about the Iolani Classic. One of our guys told him that the Iolani Classic was going on, and he asked, well, who's at the Iolani Classic? The first name that came up was Oak Hill, and he said, oh. So, I mean, that was the name that popped up in his attention as soon as the name Iolani Classic came to mind. Honolulu can't finish the second chance, and Jalen Stewart's got the board.
Yeah, their history of success speaks for itself. Coach Smith has nearly 1,000 wins if he doesn't already, and he's a high school Hall of Fame basketball coach.
Munson shows his range. The Bulldogs have their biggest lead here in the second quarter. And a takeaway. Stewart will pull up. That's good as well. All of a sudden, Kaiser's having trouble controlling the basketball.
Yeah, that's going to be a problem if Garfield starts knocking those in from long range. You see Munson with one and then another jumper right back. So if you're keeping them in front and now they're hitting them, I'm not sure what you do. You got to pick your poison.
Hickox misses. And Munson slows it down. Here's a three from Stewart. You talked about earlier everything about 10 feet it in. Now the range is starting to show.
Yeah, Stewart really looks like a shooter. I'm looking down at the program, and it says Jalen Stewart, 6'5", freshman.
That's no good.
His build and that stroke doesn't look like a freshman.
Not at all. Already getting offers from Washington and Montana. So you've got a feeling that by the time he becomes a junior, those offers are going to multiply a lot. As long as he's on the trajectory he's at.
For sure. You know that body's going to fill out, but with that stroke.
That time a miss for the putback in by Justice. But Fisher thought with that stroke you saw from the freshman. Almost feels like Kaiser's playing a little too fast for itself here.
Yeah, a little running for their lives here, scrambling quite a bit.
Two-man game, Singleman misses going around the rim. And Munson's got it top of the arc. Just lost it. Falls the speedster. Didn't see Stewart coming from the backside, but Kaiser will keep it.
Yeah, you saw that last possession there for Kaiser. They're running around a little crazy. It's going to be important for them to settle down here, space themselves out, give themselves some room to work for these crafty guards like Drummer to get to the lane.
They'd love to get Drummer more involved. He'll try. And he gets the soft bounce. They may need a little more of that as they cut the lead down to 17. Devontae Allen well short. And Drummer's trying to find himself a little bit of a groove. Watching this Garfield defense, you can see some of those guys really trying to pick up on where the ball is going and jump some of those passes as that's knocked free. That has already led to a few turnovers. That one nearly picked as well. Hickox shot clock's at 5. Drummer's nowhere close. Can he get it off? He does, but it doesn't hit the rim.
Garfield's length is really being shown here. What happens is when you have that type of length, you have that type of quickness, you don't need to help on the ball. So instead of helping or being in a help lane to stop a drive, you're out there jumping passing lanes, reading the passes and getting out and stealing them.
Final minute in the half. Dane Sue, a reach-in foul against Justice, his second. Next one will send the Cougars into the bonus. Not a lot of spacing there, and that's taken away. They got to reset the shot clock. It's actually winding down. Now they do. Nice dish underneath. And the put in for Justin White. And the shot clock now off with 20 seconds left in the half. Stue into the corner. Well, off balance from Hickox, he misses. Tibbs with the clock winding down. And that is how Garfield will end the half. A quiet start in the first quarter for the Bulldogs, but they certainly pulled away in the second quarter. What did the Bulldogs do best there in the second to pull out with now a 21-point lead?
What you see with a lot of teams is that they're a reflection of their coach and what their coach tries to preach. And in his scenario, or in Coach Roy's scenario, probably how he liked to play and how he likes to see basketball. And what you saw was a nice controlled quarter. I mean, they got out in transition, but it was controlled for the most part. They were able to grab rebounds, get out wide, get into lanes, make the right passes, get to the rim. And then you saw a little bit in the mid part of the quarter, they were taking the jumpers that were available to them. They hit a three, they hit another three, they hit a jumper, and then they stretched out a little bit, then they took again what was given to them and got back to the rim. So I think that was very much a Brandon Roy style of game, and it led to a lot of success. I mean, that's not to say that it was all about their offense. Their defense did a tremendous job of holding Kaiser to, what was it, 3 points maybe that quarter?
Something to that effect, yeah. 39-18 at the half. We'll come back in a few and get you ready for half number 2 here on day number 2 of the 2019 Iolani Classic. At the half, game number 1 of 4 on day number 2 of the Iolani Classic. And the Garfield Bulldogs from Seattle, Washington holding a 39-18 lead on the Kaiser Cougars. I'm back with Dean Shimamoto. I'm Josh Pacheco. Happy to have you with us for the marathon here on day number 2, leading you all the way up to the nightcap, which will tip off at approximately 8 o'clock. Some of the scoring here in this game, Tremaine Guidry has put up a nice solid 8 points for Garfield. Kendall Munson, 7. He's 0 of 2 from the foul line. Jalen Stewart has 7 points. On the other side, Kaiser, Mario Drummer leading with 5. Cyrus Singleman has 3. Any of the takeaways from half number 1?
Well, you saw Garfield do what they do. There was this feeling out process in the first quarter where it was a relatively close game and Kaiser was able to hang around. Then you saw Garfield take it up a notch, start doing what they do, get stops, get out in transition, fill lanes, and get there for layups. And you saw a lot greater mix of offense from the Garfield side. Early in the game, everything was within 8 feet. There wasn't a lot of jumpers being hit. And in that second quarter, they got a 3, they got a jumper, but then they still got to the lane. So I think you're seeing them warm up. You're starting to see them get comfortable and play the basketball that they're capable of playing.
Our second game coming up at 5 o'clock this afternoon. Stick around for that. You'll have Moanalua High School taking on Archbishop Wood. Moanalua, another one of those teams that people will be talking about with some length. We'll see how that matches up against Archbishop Wood as we get ready for the second half here. Garfield will have Bubba Gardner, Tremaine Guidry, Kendall Munson, Corin Johnson, and that is also Jalen Stewart. Stewart playing with 2 fouls, and I think we kind of glossed over his 7 points, but you mentioned it a little while ago. For a freshman, Jalen Stewart looks like someone who's got loads of experience.
Yeah, and loads of potential all at the same time. Those offers aren't coming for nothing. You know, he may not be the player ready right now to go play at the University of Washington, but the projection in a 4-year stretch could be a whole different story, especially with what he's got at this early of an age.
Stewart with his first touch of the second half finds Munson. Tries to power his way through. But he draws a Kaiser foul. And that's going to be the first on Cyrus Singleman, who's on the floor with Kenji Toyama, Dylan Hickox, Dre Falls, I should say, and Mario Drummer. That shot no good. Drummer goes out and gets the loose ball, and he's on the run. 1-on-4. Tough take, no. That putback won't go either. And Drummer cuts off that pass. Corner three from Falls, won't drop. And the freshman Stewart's got another rebound. Out ahead to Guidry. Right over Drummer and scores to put him in double digits.
Yeah, look at the control that Guidry was able to finish that layup attempt with. Not quite a Euro step, but got up on that one leg and hung while the defender fell back and knocked it nicely off the board.
Singleman right around Munson. He's got 5 points now. And a quick three from Johnson's off the mark. Kaiser not afraid to run with this team. Now it's just understanding how to make the right passes as Garfield's been aggressive in trying to cut in front. Drummer, nope. And Munson fouled by Singleman. He'll get to the line.
It's interesting for Garfield. You're seeing them take all kinds of shots here in transition. Some layups, some quick threes, but they do get it. From the time the shot is rebounded, it's across half court in a second or a second and a half, but it's not because they're out of control. They're just looking ahead, they're getting wide in lanes, and they're getting it up the floor really quickly. So I think Coach Roy wants to see this team get warmed up. They have another game tomorrow. The teams that played yesterday get the one-day break, get an extra day of preparation so they get to rest, but this team has to get warmed up, but on the same note, not overly tired so that they can perform in a potentially harder fought game tomorrow.
Munson's now in double digits, and Drummer will be called for the offensive foul. We were talking about Brandon Roy a moment ago. We were just going over his accolades when he was here with Garfield in 2001. Made it to the all-tournament team. A nice list in that all-tournament team, too, as that shot's no good from the baseline. The loose ball comes out to Munson, who goes behind the back. Too strong, but another chance for Garfield. Guidry. Munson can't get the fourth try. Fifth try is no good. And Singleman the rebound. Drummer leaks out, lays it in. They'd love to get Drummer going a little bit more. As Garfield doubling up Kaiser here at 5:23 to go in quarter three. Munson will cram it home.
Munson hit that earlier three, so Singleman had to go out and contest it, but with that contest, became a one dribble drive and dunk.
Munson has shown the inside and outside game. Some good athleticism with his 6'8" frame. Quick three. It's an air ball from Kenji Toyama, but Falls fights for the loose ball, and Drummer gets to the rim. If you're Kenneth Powell, you like seeing some of that extra effort off the missed shot, especially up close.
Not an easy finish there by Drummer. Getting wide with the left hand against a 6'8" Munson.
Johnson faded in the air, missed the first shot, puts the second one back. And Johnson, who came off the bench, has put in some good minutes. Finishing up on Roy, all-tournament team in 2001. Some of the names on that list: Derek Lowe, who we saw here yesterday as part of the staff. Linus Kleza, who played in the league for a little while, who was here with Montrose. You had Ikaika Alama Francis, who went on to a much better football career than his basketball career. As a nice find for Singleman underneath the pass from Hickox. And quickly the other way, Hickox grabbing the shoulders of Guidry on his way to the hoop.
What we want to take note of here also is that this has been a clean game. You know, it's a 22-point game at this point, but neither side has gotten chippy. Even on that, it was a hard foul, but quick to shake a hand, not get anyone hurt. You love to see good sportsmanship on both sides.
The rest of that team, the Brandon Roy's teammate, Marcellus Kemp, made it to the all-tournament team. Name a lot of Hawaii fans know, Bobby Nash, who played here at Iolani. The most outstanding player was Evan Burns from Fairfax, and Kevin Bell, who ended up winning Most Valuable Player 2 years in a row from Fairfax, was also in that 2001 all-tourney team. Won it the next year as well, as the second one drops.
There were some memorable battles in those years, the 2001 and 2002 Iolani Classic, when the home Iolani Raiders and Derek Lowe with Bobby Nash went up against Kevin Bell, and they've seen each other a lot in different camps and things over time, and it was a battle.
It'll be Kaiser ball. You mentioned Derek Lowe, 3 times on the all-tournament team, 01 through 03.
Yeah, considered by many as one of the, if not the best player out of Hawaii.
That was through Honolulu's hands, but it will get back to Kaiser. I mean, Linus Kleza, we talked about him twice in a row, 2001 and 2002. Made the all-tournament team. Bobby Nash did twice, 01 and 02. Got to hurry against the 5-second call, and Kaiser turns it over.
Yeah, it was a funny start with Linus Kleza. The Iolani basketball team in 2001 traveled to Europe and faced the young youth Lithuanian national team, and on that team was Linus Kleza. And next thing you know, come Christmas, he was over here with Montrose Christian in the Iolani Classic.
Corin Johnson flashing to the rim and scoring. As the lead now 25. The 2 sets of people who recall Linus Kleza's name are those that have paid very close attention to the Iolani Classic and its history. And the most diehard of NBA fans you'll find is Honolulu finds the basketball in his grasp and scores.
Yeah, not a common name
no.
Coming off the tongue of the average or casual basketball watcher.
Justice is fouled. That's going to go against Honolulu. It's his second. That's why this Classic is so interesting, too, because it brings back the names that maybe don't roll off your tongue when you talk about the NBA, but then you see the name and it pops back in your head. Hey, Linus Kleza.
Yeah, we have a list outside that has the notable alumni of the Iolani Classic, and on that list, there's the guys you've obviously heard of, the DeMarcus Cousins and Kevin Durant, Kemba Walker, Victor Oladipo, and those are the names that everybody's familiar with, but some of those guys didn't have the greatest performances at the Classic. Not that they were bad, but there were other guys that you may not have heard of that had incredible performances here at the Classic. One among them, Momo Jones.
Momo Jones. Justice the score. Another name that might not roll off the tongue for some. Kleza played 301 NBA games between Denver and Toronto. As that misses, Honolulu will put it back. Took a year off, you may recall, played in Greece in 2009, came back, that's when he played with Toronto. He averaged 8 points in his NBA career a game as that 3 drops from Corin Johnson.
The type of game that he had, especially in high school, and I guess even into the pros, it was similar to maybe a Jokic over at Denver. Not, Jokic is among the best players in the world at this point, but there was some similarities. A great passer, versatile inside, could hit some shots, but was tough in there, grabbed rebounds, a little mix of maybe some Kevin Love, but a little more burly. So he had a really nice, it was that, what was classified, I guess, as that European big type of game where you have a lot of versatility and you're able to do a lot of things despite your size. You weren't hitting that stereotype of I'm big, so I'm going to be inside. He could do a little bit of everything.
Justin White shooting 1 and 1. He misses the front end. And Honolulu the rebound with nearing a minute and a half to go in the third quarter. Honolulu pushed out of the low block. Drummer's left open. Can't bank it in. Loose ball is in Singleman's hands, but it tips into Drummer's mitts and he scores.
Drummer continues to stay productive. He's getting them every which way. He's working hard to get to the hole. He's finished with the right, finished with the left.
Sue picks up his second foul. You can see Kaiser now, as some of the Garfield players get to the rim, they're trying to make him earn it at the free throw line in the last few possessions.
They don't want to give up something easy. Yes, they got beat, but they don't want to just give them the free layup or the free points. Make them earn it, and you can see they have to right here.
Dorian Tibbs, one of 7 seniors on this Garfield team. Hits the second of the 2 free throws. Lots of contact. Sue was trying to get away. Singleman. Great length here by this Garfield defense. Shot clock is down to 2. Fade from Drummer doesn't hit the rim, and it's a shot clock violation. Worth noting, team fouls in this third quarter, 8-0. Garfield has not committed a foul in this third.
Yeah, they've played great individual defense, keeping them in front without having to hold. And
Johnson showing great individual effort, hopping into that 3.
yeah, you see Sue there just kind of shrug his shoulders. He's like, what am I supposed to do? The last time the guy went to the hole and I had to foul him, so I backed off and then he hit a 3.
And there's the first foul on Garfield here in the third. It goes against Rafael Justice. Shot clock is off. And Kaiser's going to make a quick sub here with Dylan Hickox coming back into the game. Winner gets Long Island Lutheran tomorrow, who was taken to the very limit last night against Kamehamehas. Tibbs is stripped out, but Kaiser stepping on the baseline. That was Rylan Kwok. Made a great defensive effort. The ball will go back to Garfield. And Justice out with 9 seconds. And a grab from Kwok. I think they'll give it to him as Justice was trying to get through a crowd. It is going to be Kwok's first foul.
Kwok right into the game. He walked in, got the ball, and got significant pressure with the clock running down, and he turned it over. But what you love to see is him getting back there, recovering, getting the steal, stopping an easy opportunity.
First one falls. Garfield last year 14-8, 21st in the state. Wrapping up the 2018-2019 campaign. That one drops as well. Brandon Roy has talked about trying to get this team not only back, as that goes out of bounds, but continue to rise in the ranks of that state. And you're seeing early with some of the talent they've got, they could certainly do it as Honolulu misses the 3 to close out the quarter. Garfield showing its versatility there in the third, pulling up now a 32-point lead as we head to the fourth quarter here at the 2019 Iolani Classic. Start of the fourth quarter here in game number 1 of day 2 of the 2019 Iolani Classic, and Garfield out of Seattle, Washington in control, holding a 64-32 lead. The Kaiser Cougars here out of Oahu, the Oahu Interscholastic Association, making the move to Division I. They'll get the inbound in, attacking to our left as we start the final frame. Winner gets Long Island Lutheran tomorrow. Loser will take on Kamehameha Kapalama. Hickox lost it off his leg. And Garfield's done a great job, coach. Pressure in the perimeter. Dorian Tibbs doing a great job there.
Yeah, their on-ball pressure has been significant and disruptive every single time. Even if you're able to get to the hole, you have to work for it. And over the course of a 32-minute game, that can wear on a team.
Nice look underneath, but Justice can't finish. Possession arrow will keep it with Garfield.
Sometimes you look at a game here and you see a 32-point lead, and if this were a league game or if it was a preseason game that was just something normal, it wasn't the first day of the Iolani Classic, you'd expect the team to back it off, maybe go into a zone and give the other team an opportunity to get some opportunities. But in the first round of the Iolani Classic, teams like Garfield are trying to get their feet. You know, they are on a plane, and they were in Seattle 2 days ago, and they want to find their way, so they're trying to get a flow in. So you may see them pressuring or continue to pressure all the way through the rest of the game because they know they got to get right for tomorrow.
Falls leading a 3-on-2 charge, but can't hit as he was well short. And it's out of the reach of White. We were talking about this at halftime, and I thought you made a really good point that sometimes the difference between day 1 and day 2 for a team like Garfield can be night and day. Sometimes it's based on competition, the way the bracket is set up, but it's one of those things that you can't help but notice. And I think some of these teams notice as well sometimes that difference of style or maybe intensity of play.
Yeah, it's really difficult to assess what type of team these teams are, because sometimes you look at them play against a Hawaii team that is not going to stand up to their level of athleticism, and it's not a team that they'll see over the course of their season or who they're not used to seeing. So they kind of knock it back a little bit, and they want to get warm, they want to get in flow, but it's not the type of game that they'd usually be playing. And on day 2 or day 3 in this scenario, into the quarterfinals, into the winner's bracket against a team of comparable athleticism, you see them turn it up.
Honolulu to the rim, and that's good. Nice quick turn to the baseline as Kaiser back within 30.
They get to that next level, and it's kind of a, whoa, I didn't see that yesterday, and you wonder where that was, but man, it's a big jump sometimes.
Sometimes you say that and people don't like to hear it because people don't like hearing about the on-off switch or whether you can turn it on or throttle it down a little bit. But sometimes you can't help that, and as much as coaches don't want to admit that, sometimes you do kind of have to live with that in tournaments like these in the opening parts.
Yeah, these guys play so many tournaments. They play a lot of games, especially in the off-season, that they learn the pace. Of course, as a coach, you never want that to happen.
Right.
Play your hardest all the time, make your minutes count, but these guys are aware of when the important games are, and then they do take it up a notch, and it goes up a level. And maybe it's just the competitive juices flowing. You feel it, they feel it, the adrenaline starts kicking in, and all of a sudden, it's a whole new team.
Kamakana Mahiko in for the first time for Kaiser. There's the shot fake on the free throw. Everybody kind of came in on the free throw line. Who's in trouble now? All 3 referees will try to figure it out. I think that ball kind of slipped in Stewart's hands. He didn't let it go. He's looking at his hands right now. I think they'll give him one more chance.
He does have a tape over the main part of his palm, and evidently it did slip. But it was one heck of a shot fake.
That one will go. Defender overplays on the inbound as Toyama will hurry it up. That's a tough take to the rim for Hickox, but he'll go to the line.
In a game like this for Kaiser, 31 points in the fourth quarter, they're not expecting to come back and make the biggest comeback in tournament history and come out and win this game, but there is value to what they're doing here. Anytime you're playing these teams, you know you're outmatched, especially athletically. But they can learn a lot about themselves really at this point and get better for the season. And to this point, they've had a great preseason, and they're looking to make some noise in the OIA come regular season, and there will be a lot of moments as individuals and as a team to use moving forward.
Off the screen, Justice, around and back in. Poppy Justice extends the lead to 33, and now the steal by Tibbs, but he can't finish it up. And you were talking about every valuable moment. It's not just for the players, for the coaches as well, as Tibbs snatches that right out of the air. And he'll finish while Falls grabs him. We're watching on that last series of free throws, Kenneth Powell right at the bottom of your screen talking to one of the officials as Kaiser was shooting free throws. Just as valuable for a coach to really kind of gather as much as he can and continue to coach in situations like these.
Over the course of a season, they'll never play anyone like this. They'll never play anybody like Garfield. But they'll be in some situations maybe where their press breaker isn't quite as successful. They're not blocking out so well. And they can reflect back to a game like this and say, hey, Garfield put more pressure on us than anyone, and you guys were able to successfully break it. Maybe not every time, but you were able to do that. So, hey, just put yourself back in that Iolani Classic moment and go do the same thing.
J-Zell Brown, a sophomore guard, seeing his first action. He's called for the foul as we near 4:50 to play in the fourth quarter. And Garfield comfortably leading 71-35. You might not realize if you have just logged on to BallerTV that this was a game after one that Garfield was only leading by 5, and Kaiser, after being down 9-0, had stayed tight with them since, as shot clock violation called against Kaiser, but it was the second quarter where Garfield really slowly started to inch ahead to where they are now, up 36. Hard take to the rim, that's good for Devontae Allen. I am really intrigued to see what looks like it will be Garfield and Long Island Lutheran as the foul on Shotza Stevenson. As we saw Long Island Lutheran really tested by Kamehameha last night. And watching this group and the athleticism of this group, I feel like those two get together, you might have a really solid contest tomorrow.
It's going to be an exciting one. Their size is not overwhelming on either side. Both, I believe, peak out at about 6'8", and they have some quick guards and get up and down, get into transition, well coached.
That comes out to Allen, who misses the three. Falls goes high up for the rebound and fights through to get the loose ball. Falls is a kid I really like for Kaiser. Plays football, runs track and field. He's a wide receiver actually on that Kaiser team, and you can see some of the characteristics that make him good in both of those sports, as the reverse lay and misses from Hickox. Great speed, great hops as well. Just kind of has a knack for finding the basketball. I was about to say football, one of those football terms. Has a knack for finding the basketball.
Yeah, that's what you get out of multi-sport athletes. They're put in so many different situations in a lot of different sports that they find ways to adapt every time.
Honolulu's fouled. Devontae Allen picks up the foul. And Nalu Honolulu, the St. Francis transfer, heading to the free throw line. One more here for Honolulu. That's no good. Also in, by the way, Jamari Howard for Garfield. J-Zell Brown finding Howard in the corner. And he loses it. Falls in there, forces the turnover. And that's what you like to look for too, your coach. Who's the one at garbage time who's showing the most effort and the most will out there? Nice bounce pass for Honolulu. He'll finish at the rim.
Those are my favorite times as a coach, where you get to look down the bench and see guys that get a ton of minutes in games. They get a lot of the notoriety by being starters and lead scorers, but when they get excited for their teammates who help them a ton in practice, maybe serve more as scout team than actual game type guys, and you see them cheer for them and get excited, I mean, that's a good sign, a great sign of a well-coached team.
Brown challenged and fouled by Gio Flowers. J-Cell Brown, one of 3 sophomores for Garfield. You get excited about a team's senior group, guys that have an opportunity to play elsewhere. We haven't talked about Tari Eason, who's got a really bright future ahead of him. He's been kind of quiet in this game. But when you look at, we talked about Jalen Stewart, the freshman. We've talked a little bit about Poppy Justice and Corin Johnson as Stevenson finishes there. And up ahead, Gio Flowers is all by himself. But when you get a chance to talk about some of those players and J-Zell Brown, that gets you really excited for what Garfield's got coming up after the experienced class leaves this program. That's knocked out by Kamakana Mahiko.
Yeah, if it's any indication by how these guys are supporting their teammates on the bench, it's got to be that way in practice too. If they want to see them do well, I'm sure they're helping them in practice. I'm sure they're guiding them along and easing that process into being great players.
3 in the corner. Jamari Howard, one of the experienced guys, the senior getting some run off the bench. On the other end, that's a tough take from Flowers. And Garfield will bring it back. Nice bounce pass in the lane, but Flowers recovers for the block.
Flowers again with the effort.
But another steal, and Howard dishes it off for Jalen Stewart. Nearing the final minute. We're in the opening game of day 2. Flowers showing aggression, but can't finish there as it lips off. Howard wants another one. Not there. Garfield yet to lose this year. Their last game was 6 days ago, beating Seattle Prep in their closest game of the year, winning by 13, as that's a turnover. Won that game 59-46. They've crossed the century mark, beating Cleveland out of Washington. That was back on December 6th. They scored 101. So they've blown out teams, and most of their games have been blowouts. This is one of actually the smaller margins of blowout that they've put together. Stewart's 3, no good. And Falls just speeding down the floor and getting the lay-in to drop.
Just what you were talking about there. You saw those wide receiver skills put into action. Speed, ran past this quick Garfield team and got all the way to the lane.
Garfield does not have to do anything here with the shot clock off, and they won't. As the clock winds down now under 5 seconds, the Garfield Bulldogs staying unbeaten, now 6-0. And here at the Iolani Classic, moving on to the quarterfinal round, where it'll be Garfield and Long Island Lutheran coming up tomorrow at 3:30 in the afternoon.